Today, we begin our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, this is going to be split up into 2 days. Round 1 is day 1, or day 1 is round 1, and day 2 is rounds 2 and 3. Let's get right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe below my face and my board. It is from all 22 grades only. Players with an asterisk are players who are due for a re-evaluation and will most likely be dropping. If you want to see my list of over 290 players, as well as a full description, as well as a full breakdown as to why I believe that they are what they are, feel free to go over to the Patreon. It's $5 a month. You get extended positional rankings videos. You get Rookie Watch if you guys have not already seen that series, and look at every single week how they end up doing in a very simplified format, as well as stock reports. I know you guys would love those videos, but you guys get to see every player I mark down as a winner or a loser. And then we have some special videos coming for that as well. For $5, I think it's really worth it. We built a really strong community already within a couple months. So thank you guys for that. Let's get into this. I have teamed up once again with DraftKings Sportsbook to bring you all an amazing offer. New customers, turn $5 into $200 if your bet wins, paid instantly in bonus bets. The crown is yours. Use code HMS when signing up. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. DraftKings still has you covered with their daily fantasy option. I live in the state of Texas, so this is going to be the site that I use. Make sure to use the code HMS when signing up, and a huge thank you to DraftKings once again for sponsoring this episode with the #1 overall pick. With the New York Jets, we are excited because this is current Super Bowl odds, and we have a new team besides the damn New Orleans Saints at #1. And right now, there's a quarterback who is red hot. It is Fernando Mendoza. However, before I just start going guns blazing, select the first overall pick and then continue going, I think it's worth talking about because I know not every single one of you is a subscriber who has listened to me talk about these quarterbacks a ton. Am I going to be overly laborious with how I describe these players? No. But I do want to describe the guys who are at least in play. So Fernando Mendoza, red hot right now. Obviously, the Iowa game was the first game that I had in all 22 this year for him, and I honestly thought it was a little bit more sloppy than what we were talking about with Illinois. Mendoza coming into the year as my QB3 and still is. Just a really, really good quarterback. Again, Sellers, he's just a freaky potential player. Mateer, I think, ended up taking a massive step forward, and then it's Mendoza. So he's also taken a step forward. His grade is boosted. I just ended up still really loving Mateer, and that's why he is there. But Mendoza has a really solid athletic base. I do think the Iowa game showed that he is very wish-washy under pressure. And my biggest issue with him coming into this year was his deep accuracy. And he makes a couple really solid deep passes, but watch the Iowa game. Quite a few of those deep passes were off the mark as well. And just need to be consistent. The big thing in the NFL is consistency. Now, if you're going to be inconsistent, the deep passes are where it's going to be a little bit less risky because obviously it's probably like a one-on-one or something like that, which because I trust his decision-making a little bit more than maybe some other people. But under pressure, I do think Fernando Mendoza does a really solid job. This past week, though, 2 of his passes that I think could have been interceptions ended up being because there was a player in his face. Same time, his best throw of the entire game was also him getting absolutely annihilated, but it's still worth mentioning. So I'll say that that's my way of talking about Fernando Mendoza's pluses and minuses and my opinion of him right now. Of course, we're going to be doing midseason rankings, and that is going to be the player, but there are still some other quarterbacks, and then we're going to get to them as well. But Lenoris, right now, Todd McShay, I ended up seeing a video from him last week. The NFL GMs apparently were surveyed on, the quarterback they think could go at #1. Lenoris was by far the leader. And it's because he has traits that you don't see every single year. And it's not the Anthony Richardson of it all because he is, like Anthony Richardson, an absolute alien in like a 240-pound body moving like he's 205, right? Like we're talking about, oh, I love how Sam Levitt moves. This motherfucker is a twig compared to Lenoris Sellers, all right? And Lenoris moves as well with an additional 40 pounds on him and has a stronger arm, even though I'm not going to shit on Levitt's arm. I think he has a solid arm. But I'm just saying Lenoris has a unique combination of talents that you can't find every year. And I do think mechanically speaking, he is a billion miles ahead of what we saw Anthony Richardson. So I do think there's still a chance he ends up returning to school, but he is still my #1 quarterback right now for that. And I'm someone who's definitely not in on upside, but definitely a big player there. Again, John Mateer, we need to see him come back from that hand injury, but played 3 quarters, I believe, versus Auburn with the hand injury, and of course had to get hand surgery. Again, fingers crossed, ends up coming back better than ever, but really showed massive mental progression over at Oklahoma from Washington State, which is not hard to do. Another reason why I think he has grown the most out of all the quarterbacks this year. Dante Moore, though, I mean, if we're going to talk about the 2 players who at the quarterback position who's grown the most, Dante Moore sitting behind Dylan Gabriel and then ending up having his opportunity to take the starting role. Fantastic. Another name that some people are going to put in that number 1 conversation. Again, I'm not a fan of guys who are just like barely above 200 pounds. It's a very physical sport. You're going to get absolutely clobbered. Mendoza's 225. What is Mateer? 224, 243. That's a little bit more up my alley. Is it saying that Dante Moore can't be a good quarterback because he's 206 pounds? No, not at all. But I do think he is still very young, has great poise for his age, but I do think that there is still room for him to grow. Currently, I believe he's my QB4, so it's a very good group there at the top. Right now, I'm pretty much with consensus in terms of the top 4 grouping, just the order may be a little bit different. So just I needed to do that because I do think for new people who are watching the show, if you guys are not wanting to hear all that, you guys can skip ahead, but I do want to provide that for people who are, just getting into the mock draft realm and saying like, who the hell are these guys? Because quarterback is the most exciting position. But at number 2 for the New Orleans Saints, Ruben Bain Jr. is going to be my selection here, just really short and sweet. But, I wish he were taller. I think it would be a little bit more up Mickey Loomis's alley. That might be the reason why he doesn't go that route, because Mickey is more of a measurables guy. I don't think Ruben Bain has great arm length. He's 6'3". He's not a great athlete. He's a good athlete, but he doesn't need to be. And I actually love what Todd McShay ended up saying, because I've ended up just wanting to be able to hear his opinion. I haven't even seen the shorts pop up from his show, but they're starting to pop in a little bit more now. So it's good to see that. But him and Mensch, great show. Like, they're talking about how, yeah, he doesn't have the athleticism that maybe some of these other edge rushers do. But if you look at the NFL sack leaders, a lot of them are these players that are not the best athletes in the world. They're just ferocious, technical, and just make an impact on every play. That's exactly what the Saints need. It's very similar to what I'm going to talk about in a little bit when it comes to Keldrick Falk. Even TJ Parker. I've become a much bigger fan of TJ Parker. I was a big TJ Parker skeptic, but I've continued watching TJ Parker, and very similar to Peter Woods, I don't understand why the team is failing, but I think they're improving. Ballsy take is what it is. But regardless, we're going to go Ruben Bain Jr. here. I just believe that, like, Keldrick Falk, again, another player who has an extremely high floor for teams that need something to go right. Don't always go for the flash and the bang. I don't think you need to go for the home run. Sometimes just getting someone who is damn good works. And Ruben Bain's still a home run with that great floor. So that's why it's almost a no-brainer at number 2. And number 3 for the Carolina Panthers, and again, quarterback, you could always argue it there. But I am really tired of taking a mediocre edge rusher, because I love taking edge at the end of round 1 when I know there's going to be good quarterback value, and I know for a fact that there's questions on these other guys. Dante Moore, inexperienced. John Mateer, injury concern. Lenore Sellers, inexperienced, up and down. So I do think for a team that needs to build from the ground up, they're not a quarterback away. So it is an opportunity maybe to just take your shot on maybe somebody like a Nussmeier that falls to the end of 1, rather than going and essentially trying to force something that you might not be ready for and then end up hurting guys who are more developmental by putting them in a system that doesn't work. And number 3 for the Carolina Panthers, I'm just going to be honest, quarterback needs to be on the mind here. I will be honest, the more I watch Bryce Young, and I loved Bryce Young, he's my QB1 that draft, right? For a lot of people as well. I mean, obviously, I'm not special with that, but I do think quarterback needs to be at least considered. If you are at number 3, why are you at number 3? Is it because your defense is absolute crap? No. I mean, there's no reason why you'd be at number 3, right? Look at the offense. Weaponry. You can always have more, right? Like, it is very possible, because you could just say Liggett just hasn't stepped up. I will be honest, I'll take a small victory lap on that. I didn't think that he was worth the pick, but I liked the idea of him on the Panthers, and I'm honestly shocked that it hasn't been better. Like, it is really surprising. I do think they definitely could use a weapon like Jordan Tyson if you just don't want to give up yet. Again, there's questions on all these quarterbacks. But the offensive line is far from ass. Far from it, in my opinion. The running backs, you still have really talented guys in there. Tight end, yeah, you can argue that, but that's not going to get you to number 3. So altogether, the offense needs to be performing a lot better. And defensively, you do have pieces there. You can always get better, but you do have pieces there that I don't think would lead you to be having the number 3 pick without Bryce being in the equation. But I think very similarly to the team that is in your own division in the Saints, going after the best player available might be the better option, and maybe trying to target somebody down the line. To be fair, I have started just becoming so much lower on guys like Drew Allard to where I might end up taking a quarterback with the Panthers here. I think they're more of a complete team than the Saints. I'm going to roll the dice and say, fuck it. You know what? This is a mock draft. I want to hear your guys' opinion. It's 3 rounds, but I feel very comfortable with the idea of just sitting, picking here and saying, Bryce, you've been phenomenal for us in terms of the leadership, but the play on the field just isn't enough. NFL stands for not for long, and we're going to go after the player who could bring us the most potential, and that's 6'3", 243, Lenoris Sellers. It says 240. Who gives a crap? I've seen 243, but big, strong, unique. And it gives Bryce the opportunity to start and let Lenoris kind of grow and develop over the next year. And maybe by the trade deadline, a team who has an injury to a quarterback is saying, hey, Bryce has experience. You guys want to move on to your rookie quarterback? Let's make that deal. At number 4 for the New York Giants, I always go Spencer Fano. I want to change it up a little bit. And I do know Illuminor is a very reliable player to where you can end up probably making some dart throws. I guess pun wasn't intended, but it works. To where I'm looking at Jordan Tyson and Caleb Downs here. I do think Jordan Tyson, with the ability to be a true wide receiver 1 and Malik coming off an ACL tear, would end up taking a lot of stress off Malik having to, reinvigorate the offense when he comes back. I do think a little bit too much of the focus is on them, or is on Malik specifically to make the offense better. And Jordan Tyson's a true wide receiver 1. Caleb Downs is an amazing pick. There is zero doubt in my mind that would be one of the best picks you can make. But I do think it's very hard to find true wide receiver 1s in the NFL. You found one with Malik Neighbors, and I don't remember the last time someone said, I hate having $2 million in my account because I already had $1 million, right? Like, this is a position that's very valuable. It does not subtract from the team's potential, not too many mouths to feed, and it brings you somebody who is an absolute superstar. When you get a player that is this quality, you take them high and you take them often. So again, I also want to change it up because I always go Spencer Fano, and it does make me feel a little bit better to kind of just throw a little bit of a change of pace pick in there with Jordan Tyson. At number 5, another reason I took it is because that's easily my pick for the Tennessee Titans. And looking at the picks available, I feel very comfortable making a move here, and I know exactly the team I want to make a move with. That is with the Las Vegas Raiders, because I see the Miami Dolphins here. They're going to be looking at quarterback or right tackle. If Spencer Fano's there, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm going to do very similar to what I was talking about with the Saints, go after the best player available, and Spencer Fano could probably be that for them. The Raiders need help. I mean, Colton Miller's going to IR. I don't believe it's season ending, but it is a notable amount of time. The rest of the offensive line still needs to get their shit together, and right tackle is definitely one of those. If I'm the Tennessee Titans, I want to make a small move back, and I don't think the Dolphins are really going to be sniping anything that I feel like I'm going to need for the Titans. So this is going to be a very relatively inexpensive trade, but at the same time, I want to make sure that it's still valuable for both teams. And for the Raiders, again, you're making a 2-spot move up. Like in the mid-teens, that's going to be pick 120. So if you think about it, this is going to be multiple tiers higher than that. So, pick 71 would not cut it to make a jump like this. But what I do think is that a move up from 69 to 39 would make a little bit more sense. So you guys get your feathers ruffled about that, but I do think for the Raiders, this is going to be super crucial. Like maybe we could end up negotiating something in there where, maybe it's like 69 and 105 for like 107, 39. Like, do your own shit. All right. I'm not gonna get too crazy with this, but I do think that, for the Raiders specifically, this is a move that needs to happen. They need to go and get guys that are making big impacts. The tackle class is garbage. hate to say it, it's garbage. I mean, it's just you have to get the guys at the top or else you're taking huge risks. And with Geno getting older, you talk about QB here as well, which would make this even more sense. But you talk about the tackle class, you talk about the quarterback class. Like, there's just a need to go and not settle for sloppy seconds. And for the Titans, I feel very comfortable with this. So, Tennessee Titans have reorganized their draft capital, and the Las Vegas Raiders have moved up. Now, I was instantly going to be going after Spencer Fano, and I think that's certainly plausible. However, there is also a quarterback that we could take here in Dante Moore to sit behind our quarterback in Geno Smith. Geno's been an ass, but I do think this organization is not ready to call quits on Geno yet. Maybe next week, if we see another week of Geno being absolutely unbearable, I'm making this trade and I'm going after Dante Moore. But I made this trade specifically to get Spencer Fano because no quarterback is going to have success behind that offensive line. If Ashton Genty can't, I don't think Dante Moore can. So we're going to go Spencer Fano, tackle out of Utah. The offensive line helps out everybody. And again, you're not losing draft capital by doing this. In the third round, there will be those quarterbacks that you can take that shot with, to where if I feel comfortable going after a Sawyer Robertson, Carson Beck, insert player, and you have Spencer Fano in front of them, makes you feel a little bit better than if you're just continuing to try to patch that right tackle spot with Dante Moore, who still needs to develop. And then, of course, Geno's ancient ass standing behind him. At 6 for the Miami Dolphins, Caleb Downs is certainly on the mind right now because Spencer Fano would have been the guy that I would have probably tried to go after. Peter Woods is the one that I'm also thinking about. And I do know that people are going to say, oh, these are two low value positions. First off, defensive interior is not a low value position. It's just one that there are guys down the board who can still make very big impacts. It is going to be a little bit of, if you're not elite, then you probably aren't providing the value difference of where I'm picking you now versus somebody I could pick later. But I think Peter Woods is absolutely that. And look at Downs and Woods. You're looking at my number 1 and 4 player respectively. You can't go wrong here. Now, for the Dolphins, I think building the team from the ground up is the right way to go. And I do like a lot of defensive interiors of this class. I don't feel comfortable with the defensive back drop-off. And so I would say I'm going to go after Caleb Downs here because, yes, quarterback absolutely is on the board here, and I think it's perfectly reasonable if you want to go after that route. However, I just don't think the Dolphins are in a position right now to say we're a quarterback away. There's, again, so many issues you need to solve. And yes, you can't just say I need to solve everything, then drop a QB in. It's not realistic. It's not feasible. But you also can't say I'm going to drop a QB in and then just try to put everything else around him, because that's usually how your quarterback fails. So Caleb Downs is going to be the selection there. At number 7, again, Fano, Downs were the players I was not looking at for the Tennessee Titans. And so I'm feeling very comfortable. Now, the reason why I wouldn't be very comfortable is because the player I wanted in Jordan Tyson was taken at number 4. Looking at the teams that are available, I'm looking at like maybe another opportunity for the Titans to trade down. But you look at Peter Woods, I don't think the Titans need to go after defensive interior at all. But you just might go best player available. I think I've really undersold TJ Parker. I still think his mental processing is not where it used to, or not where it should be. But I do think the rest of his game has improved way more than the stats say. Like, even though he doesn't win the block, he still makes a big impact. And I really like that about him. He's a very good athlete. Like, there's a lot to like about him. All right. So I feel very comfortable with that position for him, because the area I'd want to go is edge rusher here. And there's a lot of very good edge rushers in this class. I do think Danny Dennis Sutton is one that, it's going to be honest, a little bit overrated. So I'm going to throw that out there just so people can kind of know. I ended up updating his grade. But, edge rushers, certainly there's some very good ones here. And I would say the areas for the Titans that they need the most is wide receiver, which Mekhi Lemon, based on his play, is not impossible here. I just don't want to do it. Tight end, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger. Helm is someone they like to develop. Running back's not impossible, but I would definitely not do it in this class. Offensive line, I feel very comfortable. Linebacker, I'm not going to take Arvell Reese here, but I'm just saying Arvell Reese would be kind of crazy at this point. But I do think I don't believe there's a team that would end up making a crazy move at this point. Like, I just don't see a team having the draft capital nor the realism to jump up this high. I mean, maybe you could talk about the Browns trying to jump up for a corner, but they're going to go after a QB, right? So I just don't really think it's very realistic overall. I think the Titans have to stick and pick. And if they're going to stick and pick, I'm actually going to go after somebody that might just be a little bit higher floor. As you continue to develop the higher ceiling players, I'm going to go after Keldrick Falk. A lot of people have him in their top 5 in their whole entire board, and I respect that. I like Keldrick Falk. I have him as a top 32 player, but I do think that the value he brings in terms of the consistency is going to be immeasurable. And it's just, you got to go after these players, because I can guarantee you by the early second where we have 2 of those picks, there's going to be a lot more wide receiver talent. There's going to be a lot more talent in the areas you want than probably in the edge room where I'd want someone to start every down. At number 8 for the Cincinnati Bengals, another team that should be looking at that edge rushing position. TJ Parker does not fit. I've seen him there a couple times. I don't think his arm length is over 32 or 33 inches. That's my one issue with TJ, is I don't think his arm length's all that good. But I mean, LT Overton doesn't fit that build either. It's a weird spot for the Bengals to be in, because I do think edge rusher is one of their prime positions to target. And it doesn't look like somebody fits right now in terms of what the organization normally looks for. Peter Woods being here is ludicrous, though. And so it's very hard for me to pass on him, given how highly I think of him. And I do think there's a team that would end up making a move to come up here, because they're ballsy. They're a ballsy ass team. And that's the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, they need a left tackle. I mean, that's another position you could try to argue, but the left tackles in this class, Isaiah World, still someone who I have a lot of faith in, but almost gave me some guard vibes when watching him. I haven't updated his grade yet, but watching him versus Penn State. But you look at the left tackles, even Caleb Lamu has some big concerns, and the Bears are a very measurable base team. You look at Caleb Tiernan, 32.5-inch arms. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a fit for the Bears necessarily. And then for the Bengals, I mean, it's just a spot that I don't feel very comfortable with. So I'm going to do pretty much the exact same trade that I ended up doing with from 5 to 7, 11 to 8. And again, I think the point value is pretty much identical there. I will end up making this maybe a little bit more favorable for the Bears by ending up allowing them to move up. Oh, excuse me. That's 72. But we're going to basically make this move. I don't think the Bears are in a position round 2 to where there's anything that's that crazy for them either. I'm going to go Peter Woods. Again, you're getting a top 3 to 4 player in the class at a crazily valuable position, and you guys have whiffed on defensive interior outside of Gervin Dexter. You know how lucky you guys are for Gervin Dexter? I mean, Zach Pickens, who was taken a couple picks later, is no longer on the team. The dude's ass. Like, you just got to take your chances with the guys who are right for you. You had the opportunity to get after Jalen Carter. You didn't do it. We're going to go after Peter Woods here. At number 9 for the Browns, we're going to be going the QB route. And, John Mateer, Dante Moore. People who got all mad at me because I said Dante Moore is from Cleveland. And they're like, no, he's not. He's from Detroit. He went to high school in Detroit. Thank you guys so much for giving me the actual facts that he was born in East Cleveland. I'm going to go after him. This is a guy who he has a level head on his shoulders, obviously from the area, born in East Cleveland. And, just talk about a great story. Somebody who actually sat on the bench, took his turn in a system that they just got a quarterback from. And Dante Moore showing a little bit more potential than even Dylan Gabriel had there. At number 10 for the Arizona Cardinals, a very unique spot. A very unique spot. Because here are the key players right now at this spot. Mansour Delane, Kenyon Sadiq, both positions this team does not want. Jeremiah Love is the first one that's like, maybe. But I do want to toss in a wild card here. It's Arvell Reese, linebacker out of The Ohio State University. Now, I know it's going to ruffle some feathers if I take a linebacker at 10, because I hate linebacker at 10. Despise it, as a matter of fact. Do you know how hard it is to grade highly as a linebacker for me? Do you know how damn good you have to be graded as an 80 for a freaking linebacker for me? This guy is special. I don't let special walk out the door. And people are raving about Arvell Reese. You could wait till round 2, go after a Whit Weeks, a Kyle Lewis. You can wait till like round 3 for Jacob Rodriguez. Really like that guy, by the way. Like Rasheem Biles, another very good player. I don't want to do that with this team. I want to go balls to the wall and go after the best players. And difference makers make a difference. Damn, that shit went hard. We're going to go Arvell Reese. I just pulled that out of my ass. At number 11 for the Cincinnati Bengals. This one is, I mentioned him before, he's in play. Mansour Delane, corner out of LSU. Really big step up from Virginia Tech to LSU. I hated him at Virginia Tech, loved his transfer to LSU, and he has hit a home run there. Fantastic corner, a team that desperately needs top-tier corner talent, and I love the flexibility, even though I think Jermod McCoy, if you want to wait a little bit, could be maybe a better fit. Colton Hood with the physicality. You think back to Christian Gray. You think about Leonard Moore in that Notre Dame defense, maybe a little bit more up Al Golden's alley, but Mansour Delane has been the top corner in this entire class. I have him right now at 20 based on his preseason evaluation coming from Virginia Tech into LSU. I do believe that he'd end up being in my top 10 based on his current play this year, which has been even better than how I felt he was going into LSU. At number 12 for the Dallas Cowboys, I am very big on a high floor player, and I'm starting to think TJ Parker's that guy. Now, Jeremiah Love could be, understandably so. I would say, are there teams looking for Kenyon Sadiq? I just don't think anybody outside of the Patriots are in sniping range for that. I was like, the Rams have always been trying to do shit at tight end, and they've already messed up with Ferguson. That pisses me off. I wasn't a big fan of that pick in the first place, and then, the Rams haven't even been able to find a way to get him on the field. Like, what is up with that, by the way? If you guys live in Texas and go to Central Market, they have like these actual, where is it from? Thailand coconut waters, gas. It's the first time I've ever had it, but I have a sweet tooth and it makes me feel a little bit better about that. Regardless, the Cowboys need to go after a top tier edge, and their next pick at 29, you're not going to get jack shit. So it's LT Overton, TJ Parker. I am notoriously against TJ Parker until now. TJ Parker, where do I have him graded? Donde Estad TJ. He is 41 on my board. Granted, he is tied with a billion dudes. Oh my God. He's technically tied with Jeremiah Love. He's 35. So same grade as Caldrick Falk, who I take for them all the time. I think TJ Parker's a really solid edge rusher. Still think he's learning the game of football, but he has the physical traits that line up with what the Cowboys usually look for in terms of the build. But he's also a better athlete than I think people give him credit for. I'm going to go TJ Parker there. And again, this is a big change up for me. I'm a huge critic of TJ Parker to the Cowboys, but I'm always willing to rewatch the tape and try to continue seeing where I have a difference of opinion and see if whether I need to stay where I had my opinion or change it. I think arrogance is the dumbest thing a human being can do. The truth will end up coming out no matter how many times you try to say no. The truth is always yes. And so if I'm going to continue saying no and then I continue seeing yes, it's my fault. So I'm not going to do that to you guys. Even though it's still, tied 35, it's not at the same range as what some people have TJ Parker, which would be in my blue chip zone up here, which I have guys like Malachi Lawrence. And you guys might wonder, well, if you have Malachi Lawrence that high, why aren't you taking him? I always like to put my spin on a realistic mock draft, right? I don't think that it's not worth your guys' time to watch my show if you guys are going to come in here and just see me take guys who are on my board. That's why I have my board there. It allows you to understand, okay, so he really likes that player. But Malachi Lawrence isn't going in the first remotely yet. And I love him to death. Really good player, 35-inch arms, 263 pounds, above 40% true pass rush win rate. Amazing. Number 8 in the country. Tied 8 in the country. Number 7 in the country. So I have my reasons for Malachi Lawrence. That will allow me to put him in round 2. But I just don't believe that it's fair to you guys who want to sit here and watch. Doesn't make much sense. So at number 13, we have the New England Patriots. I was telegraphing this. We're going to go Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I think he is a special, unique player. Coming into the year, I fell in love with him. And this year, even though he hasn't been statistically amazing. He has made an amazing play here, an amazing play there, and we all know what this guy is. He is an absolute all-star, and as a blocker, he is so much better than people give him credit for. Really good spot to be in for the Patriots to draft a top-end player like Kenyon Sadiq. And you see with Drake May, how much he likes Hunter Henry. Imagine with Kenyon Sadiq and the deep ability that Kenyon Sadiq brings. Number 14 for the Los Angeles Rams. This is easy. I mean, this is easy. I know there's trades in this, but it's easy. John Mateer, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Top 10 player on my board. Again, injury is, the only reason why he is not any higher, but still a fantastic quarterback, having a really, really good year and, showing massive progression. I love that about him. At number 15 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there is not a quarterback available. Should have maybe tried to make a move with the Steelers to draft John Mateer, but at the same time, I just was not going to make a move. Like, I knew that there was too much of a threat. Maybe for the Cowboys, I could have tried to make a move with the Steelers, and that would have been smart. But at the same time, we have to deal with the reality that sometimes things are not going to go our way. So how do we rebound? And this honestly kind of pisses me off because I always love to go a quarterback here. So I'm just going to be honest. I shot myself in the foot. I'm just going to be real. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is worth a mid-first. Now, we could trade back, get extra draft capital, recomp our picks, and then end up doing something like Garrett Nussmeier. And honestly, that's not a horrible idea. Ty Simpson as well. Not a big guy in Sam Levitt. Drew Allers really pissed me off. Cade Klubnik, I still have faith in, but again, kind of like that late first territory if you're wanting to take him in the first. I do think he's more of a day 2 guy at the moment. So there's a lot of things to discuss here, but areas that I do think the Steelers could improve on: offensive line. You have guys like Caleb Tiernan, Caleb Lamu. We talk about Gooseby, like still some players here because our offensive line is far from complete. Even though Broderick Jones looks better, still not there. But I do think we have a key area in the wide receiver room that needs help. And Mekhi Lemon has been playing like a top 10 player in this draft. And, he also has been phenomenal even at the jump catch. You can go Denzel Boston, but I do think we're starting to have, again, once a little bit of an overlap with the role of what I'd want from DK Metcalf. Carnell Tate, very well balanced. I understand if you want to do that. But I do know at pick 47, we're going to still have one of these top, air quotes, top quarterbacks. I know Ty Simpson might be there. Cade Klubnik. Please stay tuned for tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3 for that reason. So I just feel like that is going to be the better route for us. And we're going to get really hot top-end weaponry. I mean, think about it. Calvin Austin's our wide receiver 2. I love him, but Calvin Austin 3 should be wide receiver 3. And I'm going to go after the player who I have tied pretty much for wide receiver 2 with Mekhi Lemon. Fantastic wide receiver out of USC. And some people have him literally in their top 5 overall. I respect it. He is a game changer. And I think for the Steelers, it's a really good spot to sit there and say, we're going to go after the player that we think will make us the best. At number 16 for the Houston Texans, Jeremiah Love certainly on the board, but I do want to see another week out of Woody Marks because he did a very good job. I'm still going to go the offensive line route, and a lot of people believe CeCe Mauigoa is the top option here, and I think with the right tackle spot open, guard spots open, I need to start taking him a little bit higher because it's just not reflective of a consensus to see him fall as far as he does. And I think this is a team that's willing to take some shots on guys to have potential failures at tackle and kick into guard. So we're going to go CeCe Mauigoa there. Again, I need to blend a little bit more, in my opinion, with the consensus there. At 17 for the Minnesota Vikings, Jeremiah Love is available. Could have ended up taking him there. But again, I'm saying I want to wait for some more Woody Marks. But for the Vikings, I mean, it feels like corner is the route to go, right? You go corner, you go safety. Either way, you're going to be perfectly happy. Colton Hood, I took him before earlier in this week in my 2-round mock draft. I'm taking him again. I think his physicality, even that he's sub 6 foot, so again, kind of a little bit more up y'all's alley in the current moment with how Isaiah Rodgers has been performing. I just love the evolution of his game as well, just in one offseason. Not a full offseason either. He committed to Tennessee pretty damn late, and he's made such big strides. Really proud of seeing how far Colton Hood has made it. At 18 for the Seattle Seahawks, wide receiver, linebacker, corner, those are the areas I'm trying to focus on for this team. And I do want to go a boundary corner too for him because I usually go after wide receiver at this point. I think it's a very good move. But I don't want to do the exact same pick every time. like I just did. And so it's a good way to throw out an alternative here. And that's Keith Abney. You guys like physicality. He's first off 6 foot, and I think he's a pure over 6 foot. He's very physical, and he's somebody who can end up playing both man coverage as well as some solid zone. And I like the balance he brings. He's somebody who has been targeted multiple times, has only allowed 124 yards. That's against top tier weaponry and made big plays versus Baylor picking off Sawyer Robertson. I think this guy's a stud. So we're going to go after Keith Abney here out of Arizona State. At 19 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we are getting to territory where teams should start looking at Jeremiah Love as a potential option for a move up. I will say it's just how many teams are looking for that top end running back. Like, you know what I mean? Like that style of running back just doesn't really, like, the Buccaneers aren't looking for it. I don't think that the Broncos are starting to look for it. RJ's starting to break out again, which is great. The Browns are not looking for it. The Commanders are, but then what other team is looking for it? I mean, the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are going to trade up this far, though. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? But I digress. Let's talk about the Buccaneers. Edge rusher absolutely is on the board for him. The problem is, like, David Bailey's the guy I always go after, and I still think that's a player I will go after. I just would prefer a trade down if I could. I'm not going to lie. The Chiefs don't have that many issues to where I might feel comfortable making that move, but I also almost might make that move in order to say, screw you to multiple teams over here that are going to be looking at edge rusher and go after LT Overton, who has the size that perfectly fits Spags' defense. Because I'm not a deny Dennis Sutton guy. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think for the Buccaneers, we're going to trade back and still get the player that fits the system better than like how he would end up fitting some other systems. And even if we don't get that, there's still plenty of edge rushers that I feel comfortable with, or we can even pivot to a different position. I think that the Chiefs need to get ballsy because you need to get something right in that edge core. It's getting to be scary territory. And I think the value difference between 19 and 28 is going to be pretty much 8 to 11. So I think we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to make it, there you go. And if you guys don't like these style of trades, I understand. Feel free to voice your concerns. But I actually like how that ended up panning out for both teams. And the Kansas City Chiefs have moved up. Jeremiah Love could easily be the pick here, but I also do think with the state of the edge position for your team, you need to get somebody who has flexibility, who can play and win very quickly. And LT Overton absolutely could do that. Again, also someone who will be setting the tempo as a high floor player. About 6'2", 6'3", 275 pounds, and a dynamic player, one that Washington will look after, one that your own division team will look after. I mean, hell, the Ravens would even be open to it. There's a lot of teams. I didn't even mention the Colts. The Colts are a prime example of a team that could be looking at it. So a lot of teams, even the damn Browns. Honestly, the Browns would have been a good team. So I'm happy I actually ended up trading up because LT would have been gone at 21. But 20, we have the Denver Broncos. And wide receiver is still a position I really like for this team. We were trying to get them wide receiver all last year. Got rid of Vele, who is literally, I think, had 2 receptions on the year and still netted a 4th round pick out of it. Shout out to Denver for doing that shit. Incredible, by the way. But we were saying Emeka Egbuka to this team, like, let's get Emeka Egbuka, and they didn't do it. So I think this is our opportunity to do that and continue developing. Now, you could go interior offensive line here like Connor Lew, but again, Connor Lew hasn't shown to be a center that's worth taking this high. So I'm going to go after a player that really has proven to take that big step up and is coming out of a wide receiver factory that is just proving to have the guys ready for the NFL. Number 21, we have the Cleveland Browns. And again, this is a spot where if a team wants to jump up for Jeremiah Love, they could. The Cowboys could be in the market for that, but I just think it's too expensive. So far, we've taken Dante Moore. And personally, I almost want to go and just double down on the weaponry here, but I'm going to go and double down on the weaponry on the offensive line because Caleb Lamu is here, and I think his talent is too good to pass on, and I just think you got to go after it. If he ends up being a guard, he ends up being a guard, but you're getting the best talent available, and then you can end up working with receiver talent after that. Washington Commanders, I know so many people want to dick ride Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and I got to see him in person at the Shrine Bowl. I really like the guy too. But if he's sitting here, if Jeremiah Love is sitting here at 22, you're taking his ass. I'm sorry. You cannot argue. Like, I love Bill. Jeremiah Love is a different type of animal. And Again, you're talking about, oh, I'm going to pass on a really top tier running back for a guy that we stole, respectively, in the 7th round, but is a 4th round type of running back. So Jeremiah Love, the pick there at 23 for the Indianapolis Colts. Someone mentioned corner as your top need. I would love to understand that a little bit more because I'm not there with it being that big of a priority. I think edge rusher, defensive interior, different story. Christian Miller to me still is like that dude. And I do think that edge rusher, especially with how many guys are up for contracts, that's why I was initially like, but it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to hold off on the cornerback route for the time being. I would love to hear you guys' opinion on that. I'm going to go Christian Miller because he is a top 15 player on my board. When he wins, he's the most dominant player on the field. The consistency needs to improve, and this is actually a really good spot for him to shine there. At 24 for the San Francisco 49ers, what I love is the fact that there's so many talented offensive linemen here, including Trevor Goosby. Goosby and World are the two players that I would love to see for the Niners. Here's the problem. Goosby's 6'7". World is sub 6'6". And you might say, how big of a deal is that? And yes, it says 6'8". I have official numbers from NFL Scouts. Thank you to the person who ended up supplying said information. But Isaiah World officially, and again, this has been confirmed from other people as well. You can ask Trevor Sycamore. Him and Connor Rogers ended up bringing this up on their show as well. Isaiah World is about 6'5" to 6'6". What I want is that the Niners use Isaiah World as a guard in the short run and develop him to be the tackle of the long. And you can do that. You can cross-train. This does happen. So I'm going to do that. That's my vision for him. We're going to take the opportunity. Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon. I do think right now the way he's playing is a little more translatable to guard, but I'm saying I've seen him and he definitely can be a tackle. He should be. I got hiccups. He should be a tackle, but just right now, I think his early gameplay right now for Oregon will translate better early on to the guard spot, which is perfect for the 49ers to get an instant impact and that long-term solution. At 25 for the Los Angeles Chargers, edge rusher is always the route that I like to go. And again, Deni Dennis Sutton is the guy who people are going to be like slamming the table for. I still think there's a lot of room for him to grow. Trev has him ranked at 80 or 71. I have him closer to that 100 mark, but regardless, he's a very good player. I don't want to diminish him in that respect. Mateo Uiagalelei could definitely be in this category as well based on how he played versus Penn State. Granted, I do think that the tackles for Penn State are both guards in the NFL. So I will be pretty consistent in saying guys who end up performing well versus Penn State, awesome, but also how did you perform versus NFL length and NFL tackle style players. Other positions for the Chargers, wide receiver used to be, no longer the case. Interior offensive line is a big deal, and at 57, I know there's not going to be really a center I like there unless I just randomly forget about some certain centers that I love, like the guy who's sitting here at 16 with Lyndon Cooper, which again, why can we not get Lyndon Cooper on here, guys? I really want Lyndon Cooper on here, but Connor Lew is probably going to be the guy. I mean, he ended up allowing a couple sacks versus Texas A&M, but he is in a very heavy support role. So actually, maybe we could end up doing a trade here. I think that might be a good idea. Trade back, still get Connor Lew. The problem is I am seeing a lurking team here in the Lions that will definitely be in the Connor Lew market. So it's like, is there anybody who's worth jumping in order to get a guy? Corner is a pretty desolate position. So let's see. With Avion Terrell here, I do think he's by far the best corner that is remaining in terms of the guys who should be going first round. Jermod just has the injury red flag because of the ACL. We don't know where he's at physically. But Baltimore definitely could be jumping the Rams here. Very, very likely. Honestly, I fuck with that idea. Would the Rams end up taking... would the Rams take a center? No. So I actually think it's a mutually beneficial deal. Ravens, Chargers, and they end up making a small deal. And what I think is that it would end up being a third for a fourth swap. Again, it's not going to affect the mock draft in any great way, shape, or form. If you guys want me to adjust it, feel free to let me know. But Avion Terrell going to be the pick there for the Ravens. They jumped the Rams. Rams, though, still got John Mateer in the first. I would still be very, very happy. But I think this is where you can take a shot on Jermod McCoy. Health-wise, there's some question marks, but I think the Eagles would certainly be a team that would be looking to take Jermod McCoy and run with the injury red flags. And I don't think the Rams can really afford that. So we're going to go after Jermod McCoy. 27 for the Chargers. Ended up mentioning it earlier. Going to continue doing it. We're going Connor Lew. Got an extra move up right there. I feel very comfortable with that. And 28 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, like I ended up talking about this before, I'm going to go after David Bailey. That's a guy who has some linebacker capabilities. People say he's not the best run defender in the world. I kind of disagree, but at the same time, he doesn't need to be. His job is to replace Hassan Reddick, and Hassan's been having a good impact on this team, and I think David Bailey is perfect for that. At 29 for the Dallas Cowboys. So first pick, TJ Parker. Pick number 29, a lot of very good players to choose between. One of them could be Denzel Boston. Now, Denzel Boston's a very good player, and honestly, a player that teams should be open to trading up for. Is there a player here that I love for the Cowboys that I need to take for them? Because I think this is a great team to move down when there's guys like Garrett Nussmeier available that would end up being someone that you'd want to develop over the next couple of years, right? Like that's just, it's the truth. It's how this shit ends up going down, right? Looking at how the top of the draft went, obviously we have a key player right here in New Orleans whose dad is the offensive coordinator for the Saints, right? Garrett Nussmeier's dad, the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. And if I'm Dallas, I'm just asking for a future third in this trade. Like that's because I still think that the Saints are the team that would end up still having some struggles early on. But you have to get a quarterback for the Saints. And the question is, who is it? And NFL evaluators still love Garrett Nussmeier. You might not like him. I might not love him. But at the same time, we still have to be realistic with things. So that's a prime target for me. I also think the Dolphins could be trying to make a move up for a quarterback as well. And then you also talk about, there are certain other teams like the Steelers, if they wanted to get aggressive and get that 5th-year contract, you can talk about it as well. But this is going to be very reminiscent of what the Giants did last year. And so I think some other teams are going to follow suit. Technically, the Raiders could make this move as well. Again, we ended up making a move up already with them, so I feel uncomfortable with that kind of move. Don't know why PFF thinks that the Colts should be interested in this pick or the Bears. Talk about 3 of the teams I would not choose. I would not have closed my eyes and selected one of those for probably the first 20 picks. But the Saints are going to make a small move up here. And I think, again, for the Cowboys, I'm going to prioritize future capital. I think that's fair. So we're going to end up making that trade through for a future third. The New Orleans Saints have moved up. And yes, people are going to be so mad. He finally passed on Garrett Nussmeier and then took him again. It's realistic, okay? If your dad is the offensive coordinator and your dad is saying, hey, this is the best quarterback for my system. This is the guy I know very well, the pluses and the minuses. And we already have our foundational piece on defense. We get a 5th year with this quarterback as well, which is huge salary cap wise. Gotta be honest, it makes sense. So, number 34, the Detroit Lions. With Denzel Boston here, it just makes me think that a team should try to move up for him because he's a very good receiver. He's my number 22 player on my board and makes me want, even for the Lions, based on what they have right now, they could even just say, screw it. Isaac Tesla, Denzel Boston, talk about guys who are unguardable down the field. That would be really crazy. Now, I can see a team like the Jets saying, this looks like a time for me, right? This is right up my alley. You know what also could make that move? The Titans. The Titans need a wide receiver, right? They ended up moving back and took Keldrick Falk. They still need a wide receiver to be a true one. And so I'm going to make this move. We ended up rearming them with those picks for this reason. Look at this. We're going to end up giving 37-39 for 30 and 62. This is just the perfect way. They've ended up recomping their picks. The Lions as well. I just don't think the players really worth it at this point. And so we're going to go Denzel Boston here. It's just perfect. I really do love how they ended up working out for the Titans. Truth be told, they end up getting Keldrick Falk and Denzel Boston. Very good value for him. At 31 for the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, based on the value available, I know the guy who I'm going to be going after right now, and that's Trevor Gooseby. He has experience at right tackle last year, obviously building it up at left tackle this year. But this is a guy who's a measurables player who a lot of people really, really like. And Stout is the perfect spot for Trevor Gooseby to be able to sit and learn. And maybe you can squeeze out another year from Lane Johnson. God willing, that's what happens. But if not, he has experience there. So it's not like end all be all. So we're going to go after Trevor Gooseby there for the Philadelphia Eagles. And last but not least for this video, we have the Buffalo Bills at pick 32. I'm probably going to be going Sonny Styles here, just FYI. I love that pick for them, but let's explore some other options again, just rather than like selling the video short. Chris Bell, love him. Jeremy Bernard, but like Chris Bell could end up being a big dynamic weapon for the Bills. But actually, I'm going to go after my guy, Dylan Thieneman here. This dude is amazing. He's a top 10 player for me, but he is coming off a week where he allowed a deep touchdown. So I do think value-wise, safeties don't always go that high. I don't think he's going to test amazingly, but this is just a dude who's a rock solid safety. Like he screams, I'm being picked in the mid-second, but I'm going to be possibly an all-pro level player. I'm not going to let him slip past there. That is going to be the video. Stay tuned tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you later. Peace.